end of South Street, just before the golf course. It's on the left, it's off the road. And we went out in March 8th and we did water table, and the water table is 6 inches higher than we called with the models. And so what Alan did is just submitted a revised drawing with the system just lifted up 6 inches. Everything else is exactly the same. So my suggestion is we approve the modification. Any thoughts?
I would agree. I'm fighting right now with my Zoom connection. I am going to close my computer and go to my.
Okay. We'll see. Yell at us when you come back.
Give me a minute or two.
Okay.
Just to do this.
Okay.
Lee, were
in the
you?
Meantime,
let's see.
Yeah. In the meantime, what you suggest makes perfect sense as far as that SAS redesign goes. So that's on my side. That's perfect.
Okay, Colleen. So that one, Herb said it was good too. So
I think
the three of us said that was good. Oh, I hear.
Okay.
I hear Herb again.
All right.
Okay. You with us, Herb?
I think I'm in business.
Okay. Okay, with the next one is, and this one,
Okay.
before, oh, we got a face. But before we get into this one, we've got, this is on the corner of Truby Street and East Street. It was, Herb, I think you were on vacation when this first came up. We've got drawings of what the building was like. We've got, it had an addition, and it turns out the sketch we had wasn't right. And the room that's in question, there's 2 bedrooms, and the potential 3rd bedroom happens to be off of the kitchen. It's a 7-foot wide by 11-foot deep room with a French, well, they're pocket doors. They're full width pocket doors. And the building inspector didn't think it could be a bedroom. As I thought about it, a 7-foot wide room with doors that go all the way across doesn't seem like that's a very likely bedroom to me. But what are your, Lee and Herb, what are your thoughts?
77. Go ahead, Lee.
No, I'm sorry. At the last perk test, I took the time to go in the house with the owner, and that room really is extremely tight. I don't know that you could get a bed in there and make it a working bedroom. It's not spacious at all, and the proximity off the kitchen makes it, I guess, barely feasible, but way awkward. You could pull it off, it just wouldn't work in my way of thinking. 2 bedrooms for sure. I saw the 2 bedrooms, and they're not even gigantic, but a 3rd is really a stretch on this.
Herb, what do you think?
I think 77 square feet is not enough to have a sensible bedroom. You can have a single bed in that, but that's crazy. No, I don't think that's a bedroom.
Okay, so we're in agreement that it's 2 bedrooms. So the design that Alan submitted is for the 2 bedroom. It's a repair complete system, reviews complete. It's a grassy lot sloped down towards East Street, away from downwards from the house. It's got a 68-inch water table. The issues are moderately high water table sloped. There's also an unused well near the SAS. I did have on this one that we hadn't decided on the bedrooms we have now. The design is for a 1,500-gallon 2-compartment tank with an outlet filter. There are 2 trenches that are 3 feet by 48 feet by 12 inches of effective sidewall on them. 364 gallons a day with 330 required. There's no vents, there's fill, no ballast required, 4 foot, it's slower than 2 minutes an inch, so 4 foot water table separation. There is no reserve area on the repair. Public water. It's also calls out for abandonment of the well. The separation of SAS to any wells or wetlands more than 100 feet. My suggestion is, as it said, determination of 2 bedrooms, submission of a revised drawing with the removal of deed notes. He had said that we had to file for a deed, but in reality, because it's over, it hits the 330 gallons a day. It doesn't require a deed note. Also, that the well abandonment is a requirement on it, and Alan didn't have a note saying that he could scale the drawing. He didn't have ties to the system. Subsequently, Alan did put the scaling note, and then put that the existing well must be abandoned legally prior to issuing the certificate of completion, fill regulations, and trench permit. What are your thoughts?
When you say public water, what does that mean?
It's water district number 2 goes through there. The line from Quabbin goes down East Street and then takes a left onto New Ludlow Road and goes down into the falls.
Oh. Okay. If that's the case, why did they have a well before?
I don't know. I don't know if this house is so old that it was actually before the Quabbin line went down. I just don't know.
Yeah. Because that logically wouldn't make sense, would it?
No, why put the money into a well?
Exactly.
Lee, what is your thought? You were out there?
Yeah, I was out there probably 3 times for different engineers, but everything appears to be as it should, and then some. I can't find any issues with anything going forward here.
So are you okay with it?
Yes, thank you.
Herb, are you?
Yep.
And I am too, Colleen. Next one is Bob Shan. This is a house that's on Amherst Road. It's actually part of Nash's Dino Land. It's across from, I think it used to be the Evergreens or Pine Rest. It's a church now. But set back from the road, it's a 4-bedroom house, new complete system. Fee is paid, review's complete. It's a brushy, partially cleared lot. It's definitely an old sand pit. Didn't see any water table. The actual issues there are the limited benchmarks. There's one iron pin. Bob's got called out to have it surveyed, but we talked about his benchmark, and he's going out and he's flagging it, putting, in fact, we'll get to it, but the design is for a 1,500 gallon 2-compartment tank, no outlet filter, no ballast required, 5-foot water table separation, reserve in between the trenches. This is also public water supply. This is water district number 2 goes up there. The SAS separations of the wells and wetlands are greater than 100 feet. My suggestion is approve the application subject to submission of the revised drawing with ties to the SAS, notes on the benchmark and labeling, and so it doesn't end up getting removed. He didn't have a note on the wetland clearance, even though there is clearance. That has to be corrected, and also there was an error in the finish grade, so, and also a trench permit. Do we have anything, Herb and Lee, what are your thoughts?
I don't see any issue, not that it matters, but historically, is this on the trolley line? Does the trolley line intersect this property?
It goes across it for sure, someplace. It's, I think the trolley goes about where this one opens up. It's kind of a flag lot. And it goes
Yeah.
through there. When
So
I walked
now that
across
being-
it, but
No, go ahead, please.
when I walked across it, it wasn't obvious. I don't know. It doesn't, Bob didn't call out easements on this. I didn't see any. The trolley line wasn't the one that would scare me so much, but that used to be the hard wire from Westover up to that notch facility
Oh, yeah.
went right on the trolley line. But I'm sure that's all abandoned.
Yeah. So as far as we know, there is no, reference or supposition that the trolley line is somebody else's property at this point in time.
No, I would say it is not, and for sure, where all this work is going is to the east of the trolley lines, of the trolley line.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Are we going to approve this one?
I would be in favor of that.
Herb, how about you?
Nothing to add, yes.
Me too, Colleen, so that'll be approved. Herb, I'm not going to
Okay.
delay this, but there's a whole big story of Albert Aldrich and his skating rink, and someday when we have some time, tell you about the generating facility, the ice house, the skating rink. Quite a story. But
I'm sure it is. I know where you mean with that little knuckle of lake there.
yep. And anyways, he actually had an underground sprinkler system, his own water supply in that little dingle down there. But anyways, the next one is 220 West State Street. This is Bob LeMaitre. This is the Brooks Real Estate Building. That one is complete. That we've approved this one. The issue, this is for a revision. The issue here is that when they got into the building, they found out that the pipes that they were going to get into were actually embedded in the foundation, and they couldn't get, without ripping the foundation apart, they couldn't get at anything. So that it ended up gonna, as Bob explained to me, more than a $10,000 major modification to try to redo the piping, or instead drop the tank outside and put a pump in for less than half of it, and it's very straightforward. The issues here, as I said, the in-foundation piping ends up requiring the installation of the pump and pump chamber. The design is for the deeper septic tank, as 1,000-gallon pump chamber with a single. As it turns out, because the system is so small, Bob had to struggle to find a small enough pump so it didn't flood the system, which he did. There's a filter in the septic tank outlet. No ballast is required. He's got longer, taller risers on the pump chamber and the septic tank. And he's requesting a variance for a single pump. And the issue with that is that the code says that other than for a single family or a double family house, you need a double pump. What Bob is suggesting, as Bob and I talked it through, there are a couple things. One is it just becomes a needless maintenance issue to put the second pump in, and it's not going to do anything to help anybody. Because the flow is so low, he's got like 3 days of reserve above the high point on the pump in the pump chamber. So it's a lot of reserve. And because it's a well, it's not like he's got city water that's coming in and it's going to flood this system, that if you lose power, there's no water. And so Bob is just saying this is just a needless, partially waste of money, but it's a maintenance problem to have two pumps there. So my suggestion is that we approve the one pump variance. And I said, due to the low flow rate, the high reserve capacity, and the well, as I said, and we approved the design modification subject to getting the electrical permit and the trench permit. Herb and Lee, what are your thoughts?
So the second pump is just a backup? Is that what it is?
It is. It's just a backup. And it's when you put them in, you put controls so they alternate. And the thought when the state did that is if you've got a commercial building and that you base just your flow on control on one pump, that they're saying, gee, that's not reliable enough. And again, if you were somewhere with a public water supply, for sure that, and in fact, if you got into a public water supply where you had water, then you really need to go the next step that says you also need to have a generator, a backup power supply for the second pump. But in this case, you don't have any water. And it's a very, very low flow system. So when I talked to Bob about it, I said the way we ought to handle it is to get it up front, go for the variance, let everybody know what we're doing, and talk about it.
Okay, so I got two concerns. The first concern is about the pump chamber, or whatever you want to call it, being on the outside of the building, not on the inside of the building, if I understand this correctly. And because it's a low volume operation, there's a real possibility of freezing. So is there going to be a heater of some type installed in this? I mean, does code allow this to occur in a commercial building outside of the footprint of the foundation? And my second concern is by eliminating the second pump, which, doesn't bother me one way or the other, is there going to be some type of an alarm installed, or some configuration that when and if that second pump fails, and I don't know how it works, if it ever can work, that everybody knows about it.
Okay. The answers to your question is that his design calls for the standard alarm that goes back into the building, and the alarm is on a dedicated circuit so that in the event that the pump blows out, the alarm doesn't stop working. So that's a dedicated circuit that's in the building. The other one, in terms of the pump, this is not a solids pump. The way this is set up is that all of the septic waste goes into the septic tank, and only the liquid goes into the pump chamber, which is after the septic tank. So it's not a pump chamber that's sitting there only dependent on flushes in the downstairs toilet. The other, it is well below the 4-foot frost line. So this should not be, this is a deep pump chamber.
Okay. I'm just trying to, visualize in my head that we're, and again, I'm not part of the initial walkthrough, that we don't create a monster here with the freezing conditions or having that single pump fail and nobody be cognizant for a couple of days until it's after the fact, or there's a gigantic mess that it is in failure.
So this one ends up essentially being the same as a house system would go, with the tank going into the pump. And the main difference here is that with the alarm, and in fact, we're going to be doing a COC for Taylor Street near you a little bit later, which is essentially the same system, only this one's got more reserve than that one. But it's the same thing with an alarm that goes into the house on a dedicated alarm circuit.
So this is,
And that, no, go ahead, please, Herb.
so this is more stringent than a home system by virtue of the fact that it has the alarm.
Oh, yours, like at your house, Herb, you should have an alarm on yours too. It should be a standard requirement that the alarm is inside the house on a dedicated circuit.
Okay.
So, not to be overly ignorant, but I am about this. So when the alarm, when the power fails, then there is some notification system built in.
If the power goes off, if the power in the town goes off, there is no alarm.
There's no alarm.
Right. There is no water and there's no alarm.
Okay. I get the fact that if there's no power, then the place can't be running. As long as we're, from an engineering perspective, as long as we're meeting current building codes and all these points, obviously, I'm not an engineer. I have no issue with it. I'm just not trying to create a special monster out of this small system here. That's all.
In reality, if you had the second pump and the power went off, you'd have exactly the same problem. There's no alarm and neither pump would work.
I agree. Yeah, no argument.
So are we going to grant the variance and approve the modification?
As long as we have given the parameters of the property with that basin catch basin that's on there now, which I guess is town property, and the issue with the well circumference, as long as we're in the right footprint and all the parts fit, and I'm not qualified to say no.
Herb, are you okay?
Fine.
I guess so, Dick. I'm depending on you here.
Okay. So we're saying all three of us are set. So Kevin, I see you sitting there. You're labeled Nancy, but I can tell you I can see it's not Nancy. But so we're all set, Kevin. We granted the variance and approved the modification.
Say thank you.
Thank you.
See, I know Nancy was there. She unmuted you to say thank you.
That's right.
Okay.
And-
Alan, I don't see Bobby.
I'm here.
Bob, we approved yours. And it was subject to submission of a revised drawing with ties to the SAS, notes on the benchmark, wetlands clearance and corrected finished grades and a trench permit. That's what we approved the subject to.
Right, and all that has been done, Dick,
Okay.
and submitted. Thank you.
Okay. So we're set. Alan, you're next. And
Hello.
Alan, we approved on South Street. We approved the modification, raising the system at 175 South Street rear, raising it up 6 inches. And then on 141 East Street, we did conclude that it's a 2-bedroom house. We approved it subject to submission of a revised drawing with the removal of the deed notes and the note on the well abandonment requirement with the scaling notes. And I saw that you already submitted that, Alan. Also that we are going to require that the existing well must be abandoned legally prior to the issuing of the COC and our fill regulation and a trench permit.
Sounds fine.
So we're done.
We're good there.
But Alan, what type of well is on that property right now?
So my understanding is, you know how there was a little bit of extra pavements up towards the house? There's a well under there. I haven't seen it. I don't know what type of well it is, but under the Massachusetts well regulations, I told the owner, Mr. Lucier can work with a licensed well driller, or do it himself and have a well driller sign off on it. But ultimately, that's what it needs, is that sign off. And I, if he needs suggestions, I know several well drillers that he can get that from, but there is a method of filling and sometimes grouting and things like that.
I don't know. I thought the only way to do this was bentonite. But again, it's not my,
There's
not my field of work.
Yeah, no, there's circumstances for some shallow wells where bentonite's not appropriate, but yeah, in general, bentonite is the way to go. Yeah, that is true.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
So have a good one, Alan.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your patience on this one. We'll talk soon. Thanks so much.
Okay, bye.
Thank you.
Yeah. Take care.
Bye.
Now, we can keep moving. I don't know if Andy Marion is here. I guess not yet. So let's go through our list of things. Timesheet for Colleen, standard 70 hours for the 2 weeks. Are we okay with that?
Yes.
Yes.
And I am too, Colleen, so that's set.
Okay. Don't forget the minutes.
Oh, the minutes. How are we at the minutes for March 1st? I'm okay with those minutes. Herb, you had some changes that I know I piggybacked onto your changes.
I'm okay.
Yep. Fine.
And I am too, Colleen, so those are approved. The
Okay.
next,
Richard, I'm back. If I could take 2 seconds. I had forgotten that Mr. Cole, Jim Cole from Belchertown, had mentioned to me that he's going to apply for a new license with you. And I told him I would put in a word. He's done 50 to 100 of my systems in Belchertown and other towns. And I just wanted you to know that his work was there.
okay, we'll have to see if he's had a license in our town before. I'm not sure.
No, I just forgot to mention it. Thank you.
Okay.
He says he has, but anyway,
Oh, then that'll be a no-brainer.
good. Thanks.
Next one I have is payables to the treasurer, total of $685. Of that, $675 is Board of Health permits, $10 for licenses, and that's it. Are we okay with that?
Yes.
I am too, Colleen. So that's approved.
Okay,
The next one is a purchase request for file folders for $36.99. Are we set with that?
Yes.
Me too, Colleen, that's approved.
okay.
Then the next one that I have is well permit, map 17, Carver Street. That one is, I think that's a Sherman and Friedrich design. It was a good design and we had questions about clearances on that well. They corrected all of that on the design. I don't have any problems with that well permit. Lee and Herb?
No issue.
No, I don't have an issue. I haven't been out there yet. I just have to figure out, later in life where I'm gonna be, but it should be fine.
Yeah, I think it's an Oberly lot and it's across just to the east and across the street from, I can't remember the name of the street with all the rocks on it.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
All right. Thank you.
Next one is lot 13 School Street. This is the third time that we're back with this one. And this one has the correct septic system design and the correct well location. I don't have a problem with that.
I say hallelujah.
How about you, Lee?
Absolutely.
Yeah. The next one, in fact, in this group, is a certificate of compliance on 12 Griswold Circle. That was a Neil Jackson design. Are we okay with that one, Lee?
Yes, there is a new system in place as we speak. Everything, as far as I can tell, is fine with that.
I'm okay with that. Herb, how are you?
I guess I'm okay.
Yeah. Just as an aside, I think that was the last half-acre lot subdivision in the town. And as it turns out, we spent a lot of time to make sure everything fits. And here's a case where you have to put the system in and it fits. The next one I have,
And that was Carver Street, right?
oh, this is Bachelor Street, and Carver Street was the first well permit.
Okay. That was Bachelor's. Oh, all right.
And this one is actually Griswold Circle. So if you go down North Street,
Yeah.
take the right on Bachelor Street, go
Yeah.
down about, I'd say close to a mile. And then there's a little development on the left in there.
Yes, third left, once you turn on to Bachelor or off north.
Okay.
In fact, it's just before you get to the Griswold sawmill, but that's not there.
Just before you get to the Griswold sawmill that's not there.
That's right.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay. I figured that helps.
Yes, that helps a lot.
Okay. The Title V inspection reports. These are for you, Lee. 32 New Ludlow Road, Greg Everson fails. And 153 Bachelor Street, Greg Everson passes. Can we receive both of those, Lee?
Yes, please.
Herb, are you okay receiving those?
Yes, I am.
And I am too, for Colleen, so
Okay,
the three of us approved receiving both of those.
okay.
Next, let's see, what time is it? It's not quarter of yet. It is, I'll just ask if Andy Marion is on yet. It looks like there's Andy, but you're muted, Andy. Okay, then we'll keep going. We've got nomination of the animal inspector. It looks like Tom Fleabot. If we want to nominate him, I certainly would like to nominate him. He's been the best animal inspector that we've had.
I would
I guess
second
I
that
should,
for sure.
I shouldn't say that because maybe there was a better one, but not that I can remember. I can promise you there were worse ones.
Well put.
Herb, how are you with nominating Tom Fleabot again?
I think the name is fitting for an animal inspector.
So, and Lee, you're good too?
Yes, thank you.
So Colleen, we appointed, we didn't nominate. Just to make it clear, Herb, you
Okay.
voted, and Lee voting to appoint him, not to nominate.
Even better.
Okay,
Lee, you're
Yes.
voting to appoint him, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, me too, Colleen, so we did that unanimously.
okay.
Let's see, that we keep going until Andy does pop in here.
Did you guys get that certificate of compliance for 21 Taylor? I emailed it.
Now, Lee,
That's
did you inspect that one? The
Yes,
21 Taylor?
I did the subgrade last Wednesday, and I was there this morning for the final.
So,
And everything's fine.
so we can sign off on that? Herb, are you set with signing off on that?
Sure.
Me too. And Lee said yes, so that's approved.
Okay,
I see Andy's face now. So we're getting further, and you're not muted, Andy. So it looks like, are you with us?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
I can. Yours was, I have to imagine you're frustrated with this water test. Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit.
This regulation, and Herb is suggesting that we write it down, which I think is a good one. The regulation requires that the person or the company that's doing the water test actually comes and takes the test. And that is a thing that's called a chain of custody. It means that the person doing the test knows where that water came because he took it. Then the test has to be a test that says it passes the requirements for the state and federal drinking water standards, not the suggestions, but the requirements. And the testing company should know that. So when you went and had the well guy do the test, that's not the sample. He's not the right guy. It's got to be the testing company that comes and takes it, so that you know that it was taken from the right place and that you know that it was taken properly. But the last one that came through was only for, I think it was coliform and something else. It wasn't for all the drinking water standards. So this should be a really simple thing to call up whoever, I don't know who you're dealing with, whether it's Quabbin Analytical or something, and say, hey, I'm ready for a test. Could you come down and take the test? And I need a sign off for drinking water. And they should just come and do it and give you the report.
Okay.
But we're gonna make sure that that gets written someplace so that someone like you can avoid a month of going through this.
Okay.
So do you understand what, so you call up
Yep.
who you're gonna get done
Yep.
and you say, come over and take this test and do the test of the sample and do the test and give me the report for drinking water, for building water, a building permit sign off.
Okay. I can do that.
Okay. So have a good one, and it should be, we should be able to get that done. Let's get you in and drinking that stuff.
Okay.
Okay?
Appreciate it. Yep.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
The next one,
Dick, this does have to be codified because there was too much confusion with this guy and there was too much confusion with the last guy. So let's make sure that we codify this.
yeah, we ought to just, it's, the process isn't very complicated. It should be. Colleen, if do you have a spot that you can stick that on our website?
Yeah, sure. Yep.
Okay, let me write it down and all it takes is a few sentences and we'll do it.
The fact that it's not complicated and it seems obvious is exactly what's leading to the confusion.
Yeah.
People think they know how to do it. So this is important.
Yeah, it's easy enough to do and once it's written, then you can just say, there's what it was. And it turns out,
Yeah.
or there are other ones that were the same thing. There's a guy on Amher Street that Tim Healy was the same thing. He was going to hurry up. He was trying to get his water test done. And I just happened to say, hey, you can't just do that. And he says, oh, I would have done the wrong thing. So you're right, Herb. It's simple enough to do and not having written it down. We should take care of it. So I'll give a shot at that. And Colleen, I'll send you a little something. You can send it out to Herb and Lee and just make sure that people say, yeah, we understand it. It makes sense.
Yeah.
Or change it.
Okay.
But okay. Next thing I've got is air sensors. And it ends up being not quite as easy as I thought. I am going to, tomorrow I'll go and grab one of them, see what it is that we're dealing with. McDuffie is ready to do it. I did not hear back from Stephen Sullivan. I'll get back to him. He had already told me that he was going to do it and take care of it. But I'll get a sampler in my hand and understand what we're asking people to do. I'll do that tomorrow. Chris Martin said that he would be happy to do it at Town Hall. Colleen ran into a little problem at Finn's Hill. And I think once again, it's not knowing the exact details. So I'll look at it and I can talk to Tammy about what we're trying to do. Chris suggested that the one on New Ludlow Road, he actually suggested that I get a hold of Mish Turgeon. And he thought that that Mish's father lived right in that area, and that Mish could get us somebody to put the sampler in that general area. I got a guy that sells all these used everything. I think his name is Gil. No. Ghoul. I'll find it out, but he's right at almost at the corner of Morgan and New Ludlow Road. Where I'd love to do it is right out at what used to be Lanes, but I'm just concerned that if we put it out there, we wouldn't necessarily know that no one would tamper with it, or who knows whether they even have Wi-Fi out there. But I will do that. Tomorrow I'll do some work.
Wi-Fi seems like the biggest issue.
Yeah. Well, Chris was concerned that if the power supply isn't the 5-volt power supply, if it's not waterproof, they could be giving us something that has to be mounted outside with an indoor power supply. So I'm going to have to look at it and see what they've done to us. So and Colleen, you have them? You physically? Okay. So tomorrow I'll pick one up.
Okay.
So that's that one. The next one that Colleen has got down is that letter that we had with the tobacco cease and desist order and suspension time. Lee, did you and Herb, did you read that letter? It basically says is not only is there $1,000 fine with the first offense, but can be a suspension of the right to sell. And in the letter, the way I read it, it sounded like the Board of Health should say, instead of it can be, that we end up saying this is what it's going to be. But it also, when we get out to like the third offense, it looked to me like, unless I read it wrong, that it was only like 7 days at the third offense. But Herb and Lee, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I think you have to be fairly prescriptive here. A cease and desist after a first offense is not in my bailiwick. That's not what I would want to do. $1,000 fine is pretty severe, but not cease and desist in addition to $1,000 fine.
Lee, what are you?
Yeah,
What are your thoughts?
I have to agree with what Herb's saying. $1,000 is a lot of money. And if you do a cease and desist, and depending on the volume that this person does, I mean, if it's high volume, my basic thought is that they should just pay the fine and be done with it. But if you throw on a fine plus a cease and desist, you're pretty much putting the guy out of business, and there's no reason, if it's a medium or small amount of his trade, to ever get the license back. Not that it's going to hurt us, but it seems excessive.
So it sounds like I agree. So it sounds like the three of us are saying that for the first offense, we are not going to have a cease and desist.
I wouldn't like that. I would vote against it.
That's overkill.
Okay. So all three of us agree, Colleen, that we are not going to have a cease and desist on the first offense. Now let's go do we say, I think the third offense, we don't have a choice. There was something prescribed, I think.
It says, and a possible permit suspension of at least 7 consecutive business days.
I don't understand
Not-
when you say a possible up to 7. And, well, we've just, for what, the second one or the third one?
That's what it says on the third. The second one says possible permit suspension for at least 1 day, up to 7 days.
So we've already said we're not going to do the first. So let's go. And it sounds like the third is up to 7 days. And it looks to me like it's what Herb and Lee are saying. It's the fine that's the big deal here. It's the
fine is the big deal, but this 3 strikes and you're out. It's hard for me to feature, Dick and Lee, that someone is going to be careless enough to have multiple strikes against them here. This is too expensive for any small business to survive. So I don't, if you say 3 strikes and you're out, then that's a permanent suspension in my mind. That's overkill. What I would suggest instead of that is an escalating fine. That's going to get people's attention immediately. So if it's 1,000 and then it's 1,500 and then it's whatever number you want, or you lose your license, people are going to be very careful. And if that's the intent of this, then make it something that works rather than some wishy-washy stuff.
I'm concerned. I agree with you, Herb. And I'm concerned with things that say you might have a fine you might have a suspension that might be 1 day to 7 days. So you've got 2 different levels of uncertainties, which are that I think just too loose.
Yeah. And who decides that? Is that us? Is that Boston? Is that Northampton? Who is it?
Sounds like it's us.
I don't want to sit in judgment of the number of days. I want an escalating fine because I think that would be effective. Not selling cigarettes for a couple of days is going to be nothing compared to $1,000, $1,500 or more off your bottom line. This
I
is,
fully support you, Herb.
yeah,
Fully support this. I think we shouldn't be in the suspension business right now, especially when it's that loose. If the state wants to say these are mandatory suspensions, let them put them in. But to say Granby's going to behave one way and South Hadley's going to behave a different way, and
no, we're not going to do that.
Lee, what are you thinking?
No, I agree with your conversation. Herb's points are absolutely correct. My only comment is that apparently, if we're talking about the package store on the north side of town, that the verbiage of these fines does not include, to my knowledge, a time frame of when the fine is due. And I'm guessing that's how we got to where we are now. I don't know for sure.
They paid, Colleen, they paid, or didn't they?
Yes. Yes.
And they paid right
Yeah.
away.
We've had a couple people and they paid. Everybody paid. It was tough. I could see it, but they paid.
Well, okay, so I'm confused. I don't think we should be so unreasonable, as Herb correctly pointed out, to add to the misery.
So Colleen, all three of us have said the same thing, that we are not going to impose cease and desist. We're going to deal with the
Okay.
the fines.
Okay. Yeah, because the fine for the second violation within a 36-month period goes up to $2,000. And a third violation within a 36-month period from the first violation goes up to $5,000. So
this is,
pretty.
yeah. So we all agree.
So, yes, going back to Colleen's comments, do we know definitively that every single merchant in this type of trade is cognizant of the fine, fee, and scheduled?
I think they are, because they get, all their information, that the state sends them all the information. And when the applications go out, pretty sure there's some wording in there too. So I'm pretty sure they know.
I mean, as long as we're sharing information, that's all we can do.
I really like Lee's point. I think the retailers should be notified, clearly notified. First offense, $1,000. Second offense within 36 months, $2,000. Third offense, whatever you said, $10,000.
Mm-hmm.
I think everyone selling tobacco in town ought to have that in hand. You don't want anyone saying, well, I really didn't know. I think Lee's point is right on.
So Colleen, what if you look at all of the tobacco licenses and then send them out something saying, we just want you to know that this is the state mandated fine schedule.
Yep. And I think they have to pay within 21 days once they receive this letter, if they violate.
Okay.
So at least then they can't say, we didn't know.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, good idea. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Very good.
The next item we have is the public health grant respond to Lauren Davin's request. I know that actually when I saw that note, I didn't understand. I was going to actually send Lauren something saying, when you send a note out saying, thanks Herb and thanks Colleen for letting us talk. And here's some questions. If you choose to share it with Lee and Dick, go ahead and share it and say, I don't understand where Lauren's coming from, but I don't think she understands the function of our board. But anyways, that's secondary to the fact that you did ask us to give her some feedback, which we should.
Well, I think they want to know what are our major issues and how can they help us address them.
So Herb, do you want to take a shot at it?
No, I think we ought to decide as a board, what are our major issues and what do we want them to help us with?
Well, the ones that offhand that I would see, I would, and whether they're good or not, certainly some kind of outreach for elderly. I would look at restaurant inspections. I would look at septic system reviews. Certainly contact tracing. Vaccinations. Lee and Herb, start adding on.
Well, yeah, I mean, vaccinations, it's key. Maybe something along the line of smoking cessation. Air pollution is huge. Herb, you had an issue, which is valid, of course, of the construction vehicles on your street, with all those particulates from the diesel.
We need data management. We need public health information, diabetes, hypertension, heart disease, the major killers, cancer detection, public health help with informing our populace about those issues from a public health perspective. That's what I would say are important with shared services, and also how we can help them via our partnership adhere to the state mandated guidelines for public health, which we looked at when we wrote a draft for a grant, and good grief, there's nobody in the state that would even be approaching any of those. All of those, not any of those, all of those.
The other thing that, Herb, when you talk like that, if you recall one of the, not one of, but the strategy that the state was saying is having trained licensed people in all of the key inspecting points. And we don't have trained licensed people anyplace.
Correct. So either the state overstepped mightily in what could be accomplished, or they're expecting things that just can't be delivered. These people don't exist. Or if they exist, I don't know where they are or who they are or how they're going to serve all these communities.
So that should be on that list, Colleen, because we don't have those trained, licensed experts in all of the key fields. We don't have those.
Colleen, are you making a list of all of these things that we're saying?
Yeah.
One. Terrific.
Maybe we said that, dress that list up. That's probably even in her, when you say that kind of stuff, that if you look at the epidemiology, that's saying if we've got little hot spots, and someone's should be looking at that data, and you also heard mention that uniform data that's reporting to the state that whether it's perk test, whether it's restaurant, all of the things we inspect for, we don't have a unified reporting structure.
And I would submit, Dick, that neither does anyone else.
I know that, but it ought to be on somebody's list. It wasn't on the state list.
I'm not sure I even have a copy of the shared services thing that I wrote. I'm not sure I copied it on my computer when I sent it out. If somebody has it, there's probably a bunch of stuff in there, because I tried when I wrote that to be thoughtful about these things, but it's a while ago now. And when we couldn't attract a partner, I just said to myself, c'est la vie. But if someone has a copy, I wouldn't mind looking at it again.
I know I have it. I have to go looking for it. I'll bet Colleen has it too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I probably do.
But that's how I think we ought to respond to Lauren. And that's a big list. Well, it's a big deal. There's a big deficiency. Public health has never been at the forefront of anyone's list of priorities, except maybe a few public health people. And they've never been considered very highly by anyone until now. Until now.
Yeah. And now they've been run out of town. So
that's right. So that's what I would do. I would make our list up, and here's the kind of things that Granby needs, and probably every other town needs at the same time.
okay.
And I don't
Next
think that's unreasonable at all.
Also, I think it's a good starting point. Then someone could say that's pie in the sky, but I don't know the way when I talk to Northampton, they seem to be saying that they want it to become, more encompassing. So
that's great.
let's see if we can push them.
That's right. We're going to tell them all the things they should encompass.
That's right. Fee schedule. I don't have an issue with Herb's suggestions. Lee, what is your thought?
I agree. We should follow that and go with it.
So we already know, Herb, that you agreed with it. So
yeah.
So Colleen, could you come up with a list based on what Herb suggested, and next meeting?
Sure.
Let's give it a whirl and let's adopt them.
Okay.
Fantastic.
Sounds good.
So the next one, COVID issues. I think it's going to come back, but I see that England is finding out that the old people are starting to get it. That all the people that protected themselves so well when everybody else was stopping the spread, now that people aren't stopping the spread, those old people are, I guess we're getting ready for our fourth shot anyways.
Exactly. Plus, Dick, let's be realistic. none of this is going to make even a tiny bit of difference when that nuke hits Westover, because we are all going to be incinerated. So, frankly, I think we ought to be calm about it, because we have no control over the big picture. And Westover is going to get hit because those big planes can carry a lot of stuff.
I'm just hoping that now it's a reserve base, that instead of being a SAC or a TAC base, maybe it's off of everybody's radar.
Well, why don't you send those planes south, and then maybe it would get them out of here.
So anyway, so it sounds like we don't have any, that the numbers are actually still being pretty low in the town. And as you saw, last week was, or the week before was my last report. And for what it's worth, no one said, I didn't get one single response saying, we're going to miss you. Thank you for doing this. So I think Herb said it several times. It's a great effort, but doesn't probably mean anything.
Well, I would talk to you offline about it, not in this forum.
Okay. So where we've got is just email, mail, phone calls, other business. I don't have any. Colleen, usually this is your part to say, hey.
Nope, I think you covered it all, as far as I know.
If that's the case, do we want to call it a night?
Good night, Irene.
Okay, good night. I'm going to shut you all off.